Hello, I am Radagast, at your service. Tonight, the responsibility of unity addressing the buzz. So what's the buzz? Well, in our network, some people call it a community. I hold community in little regards, and usually the community I would involve myself with would be people whose faces I know. So in our network of people throughout the various forums, there's different ways people connect through forums. Very large forum is Project Avalon, and I guess Project Camelot is, I don't know if it's still operating a forum or what, but they're part of one branch. And then there's break-offs. There was Nexus, which is, I'm not sure what it's doing. And then there's the One Truth, which I belong to. I participate in. And so that kind of, there's a network there. And then you have people who regularly will follow Dave Schmidt and Neil Keenan and Ron Van Dyke, because that was where the ambassador could be heard, and that was a story. And then Neil Keenan also, not Neil Keenan, Dave Schmidt. I hope I said Dave Schmidt. The Dave Schmidt Show, Kev Baker, and Ron Van Dyke. And that's where the ambassador was. And so anyway, there's a whole buzz. So yesterday, a piece came out by Neil Keenan, and his Pied Piper piece. And then within 24 hours, and this kind of seemed to escape, and I'm going to put it as a link, a piece came out bringing David Wilcock into question. And I have it here on my browser, and it's called sitshowblogspot.co.nz, so I guess it comes out of New Zealand. And basically what it is this blogger is presenting an article, and he does some intro, and just before he kind of lets it take over, he says, David Wilcock, along with Benjamin Fulford and many others, all represent people who are presenting information many have accepted as fact without verification. But only through verification do we take an idea that is offered and make it our own, something that can empower us. Much like learning how to be a chef versus following a recipe, we are not dependent on the credibility of the source. If we verify it ourselves, we become our own experts. All right. The critical analysis may shock you, and so on and so on. Okay, so he's introducing, and then it goes on to this piece that I guess is going to have us question David Wilcock, or at least his sources, something. It's inserting some kind of question. But what's interesting, I find, is that although this piece is all about David Wilcock, just before he releases us to read this piece, it is said David Wilcock along with Benjamin Fulford and then many others. So he's tagging Benjamin onto David Wilcock by naming him before we go into the piece. This is, whether it's intentional or not, it does what it does, is it puts David and Benjamin into one package that is about to be asked to be questioned. So while they focus on David, by putting Benjamin with him, as we question David, we also have to question Benjamin. Now, the interesting thing is Benjamin and David Wilcock are one of the few other people, through their own ways, following the dragon's story. The various intertwining stories here, and what's coming, and what's happening with the financial cabal, and all the rest of that. David Wilcock is part of this story, as so you got David Wilcock, and then you have Benjamin Fulford has been doing his own thing, and all of this is all starting to converge as the ambassadors come out, and as things have moved further and further along to when this tectonic shift will take place, and its influence felt. I start seeing a convergence happening here, and responsibility of unity. So right now. The reason I'm bringing up unity is because this has almost created sides. As soon as the Neil Keenan piece came out, it was almost like, I thought the ambassador was full of it, and it's all of a sudden it's like the people who had any doubts and had no voice of their own this is crucial even, who really couldn't put it in their own words exactly what it was. This piece comes along and it's like, aha, you see, okay, not my words, but you see. So there's this whole thing of deciding now, because there are a lot of people kind of like, oh, I'm not sure what I think about this, the ambassador's story. And then this comes along and it's kind of like says, well, see, this is what you should think of the ambassador's story. And so a lot of people who are on the fence suddenly go, oh, here's my proof. This is all I need. And now this is where I am. And this creates now sides within our network. All right, so you have like the ambassador, and then by dint, you have Ron Van Dyke. You definitely have David Schmidt. And whether or not Kev Baker's in there is pulled in is not so important. But to me, Kev Baker, to this story, this little buzz that has come up, to me, comes out of the last Kev Baker interview, when they were, interviewing the ambassador, and Kev or Martin asked Gwen if she wanted to ask the ambassador a question. And then she went to ask him a question that I thought was framed in a difficult way for a person who always has a diplomatic answer to give to, as it's almost, it's almost like have you stopped beating your wife yet? That no matter what the diplomatic answer is, there's this coming, and again, it's all human. It comes from emotion, but basically what was is 3 people were named. If I recall, the 3 people named were Neil Keenan, Karen Hudes, and Drake. And so their names were mentioned in a question about them, and the question ends with about them being so full of it that their eyes are brown. Okay, so we have 3 people mentioned as a group, and the question closes with they're so full of it their eyes are brown. And of course, what they're full of, we all know. All right, so that's what's being said in the question. Can you tell us about these 3 people who are full of shit? Whoa. A little undiplomatic. But again, this is what happens when we get emotional, and and we're all, I think, the kind of decorum that we now need to approach, not only for unity, but also we're about to be interacting with all, the gates are coming down, and our normal decorum is a little bit zooish sometimes. And it's just old habits that we're still in, and we can break out of them very easily. A little tiny bit of mindfulness and just looking for unity. So what happens is, we have really an innocent question for all intents and purposes from Gwen, with emotion, and she happened to name people and the way she closed it. So basically, what happened was she threw the poo, hit them all. Okay, they all get browned by that question. And basically, how did the ambassador answer? The same way he's answered that question because he's answered the question the same way as he does when he's been asked that question before. Ron Van Dyke has asked him that question, but I don't think Drake was in the equation. It was just about Neil and Karen. And I knew basically what the answer was going to be, because he'd already given it, and I like the answer. And this is my answer. Neil Keenan is saying that he's working to get funds for the good of humanity. It sounds like a good cause, and seems like he needs more time. So, I wish him the best. I mean, this is not, people say when he says I wish him the best of luck, like he's like, yeah, we're blowing him off. I mean, I think it's the only compassionate and sane thing to say to somebody who's telling you that they want to do something good. That's what he's saying. So you're either going to trust him, this is where trust comes in, or you don't trust him, and you might think that he's a liar or something, which is not very nice, and not at all where I'm going. I think that the only answer is, I'm doing this for humanity, and when I get the funds, I will do the best I can to release you, and in the meantime, he's working, so let him work. Okay? Karen Hudes is basically the same thing. I'm working for humanity to make their lives better, and here's what I'm doing, and here's what I'm doing. And if I'm not behind, I don't really know what she's doing. She's saying what she's doing, fine. And if any of with Karen or Neil, can get what they're doing, I am more than happy to see it. But I don't follow it with any emotion because I mean, I make just above the poverty level, but I manage my funds, and so there's like no quick thing that I personally hunger for. I have most of my friends I'd like to see some satisfaction because it would bring the misery of my company up a little bit. So to me, the only responsible and compassionate thing is saying, if this is what you say you're doing, I have no reason to doubt you. Also, I have no reason to doubt you. And so, best of luck. Please, proceed. I mean, that's what I hear the ambassador saying. Other people think I think hear a snide thing. And so, this whole, so anyway, so that bomb got thrown. Now, Neil has a donation button associated with his work. And so any besmirching of his character could hurt that. So that, I mean, so this, this whole little shit fight gets started, and it's created sides where there should be none, and in the big picture, and some people had asked me to comment on it yesterday, and I really just look. First of all, I think the piece stands for itself, and each people will come away with a different reading of it. I read it for my value, and I thought it was very interesting. Also, after it's all done, Keenan extends thanks to people, and the very first two people on that list are David Wilcock and Benjamin Fulford. And out of the whole piece, when I saw their names on there, I just thought that was interesting because I know that there's some kind of Red Dragon family affiliation, at least with their information, or they're not I don't see them as antagonistic. I see them as doing their own work. Once again, this is everybody should be doing their own work. If you're working for us and humanity and getting out, let's just be busy. I mean, fine, we have comments, but we're all working for the same thing. So Neil's stated goal to me is a noble one. Karen's is a noble one. Best to you. What else could anybody say to them? So that's why I kind of thought, I really feel like the question to the ambassador could have been Neil Keenan, Drake, and Karen Hudes. What do you have anything that some people are wondering, what they stand, or do you have anything to say about them? In a way, again, leaving it very neutral. This way here, when an ambassador would give his neutral response, it would have left everything nice and neutral, because there was an emotional charge it got back, and also now it's created polarity. There's now the ambassador and Ron Van Dyke and the Dave Schmidt, and I'll have to be in that camp. And on the other side now we have Neil Keenan and all the people who've jumped on his story. And this is the biggest part of it is that some people are uncomfortable with the ambassador's story. Fine, I mean, it is what it is. But a lot of people really didn't have a voice, and they really weren't, they could say it, but most of the time it came out very, really crude, and, it's all bullshit, that kind of stuff. That's what the best people, some people were able to come up with, and other people just give me the proof, give me the proof, give me the proof, that kind of stuff. So, we can't really have, I feel, this kind of stuff and these kind of dialogues with this kind of language. We really have to be careful, because keeping the unity is important. And so I mean, on my own site, I saw the same thing with regard to. I mean, I'm there, and I have a long-running site called Rose Goebel Tent at Tot, which is for the one truth, Tot. And then I started a completely new thread, ModWiz's new videos, which I've been running all of these. And I put them in both my threads. I have 2 threads there. And some people are really not resonating with the theme of the ambassador and the story and what's coming. And, which is fine. But, so I guess it was earlier today or something, the story, Neil Keenan update, and of course it carried this. And what's interesting, and again, the people who are, there are people who are now finding a voice, not of their own, but of the voice of Neil Keenan to speak for them. And this is another thing to look out for, is when you have a group of people who seem to be disgruntled at some level, but can't find their own language to express themselves. And then when a piece comes along that's in vain or helps clear things up for them, they take this whole piece, this whole work, like Neil Keenan's work, and it's like, these are my words. And that's lazy on a lot of levels. And then of course it also creates side. These are my words, and now there's a side. So now we have the ambassador and that coterie, and then we have this, and this is bullshit. This is divisiveness over a story that you either are in alignment with or you're not. And there's no need, but people are very, this is the reason why this happens, is emotional investment. Something's bugging people around this at some level, and that's why there's an emotional investment. I mean, that's where this is coming. When I'm listening to all this stuff, I'm clear as a bell. And when on certain things, during all these months with the ambassador talking, as I'm listening, I might feel a twinge, not an emotion, but a feeling. An emotion is something that takes off. A feeling, and I would note as I'm listening, oh, that phrase, I got this twinge, and keep on listening, and then maybe further on down, I'd feel another twinge. Okay, that phrase twinged me, and then when I've gotten a whole body of information, I sit with myself and just simply kind of repeat the phrase to get the twinge and find out exactly there's a feeling around this, but what is that feeling? Just because you have a twinge, it could be many things, and so then you have to take your mental body and your intellect and hopefully your compassion and your higher body down into where that, right down, but to where that feeling is, and say, what's up? Okay, because feelings are valid, but this is how you use feelings, and not emotions. Like again, these emotions are like these vortexes that feelings go off to, and they whip into the emotion in the mental body, and they get all screwed up with thoughts, and then they get confusing. Feelings are feelings, and they're elicited by thoughts. So you have to match them up, but not in that tangled way. It's like, here comes a phrase, I felt a twinge. Now, you don't want to investigate that twinge when it's coming in, because the sentence is moving. And if you freeze at that sentence, to like, oh, how do I really feel about that? Everything moves on, and then you lose it. So in the whole data stream, it's almost like as if you were watching narration, you kind of go, okay, got one there. Got one there, as you're still following the narrative, and then you come back and you know where it is, and I just kind of make little mental notes, that phrase, and there's usually only two. And then I go in and I find out what was it? What was it? Sure, there was a twinge, but what was it? And then sometimes I'll come up, and it can be like one of those fear things, and then we can take it through the mental and higher processes, and then sometimes we go, oh, and then we get, sometimes there's even an aha around there, and the understanding is even greater. So feelings are great. Emotions are where the water storms and the water spouts and things blow about, and we get very confused. Where do I want to take this? So what I want to do is I really want to take it away from this division. Neil has fired his salvo. I hope he feels vindicated, because he did have his character questioned, and so he's responding. It's and that's how I'm really seeing it. Like, I don't see it like as an attack on the ambassador and Ron. I see it as he felt smacked, and this is don't smack an ornery Irishman. And that's to me. I may understand. I'm probably making light of what people consider a very serious piece. My only comment is how obviously I take it with less seriousness. I see it as a response, and not even the only harm I see from it is not to the character of Ron, of the ambassador, or of Dave Schmidt. To me, what it hurts is the network, what we call the community, and creating any fracture in here, other than patience and let's see. See, the only investment people have is looking like a fool. Nobody has any real investment, which is why I know there's no investment. I'm watching. I'm observing. This is, I got lots of data streams coming in. This is very rich. But I don't have a horse that I'm betting on. I kind of am watching a race, but I don't have a bet on it. And I see one horse that looks like it's going to take this race. And it also looks like if this horse wins the race, it could be like a nice party afterwards. And so that's what I'm watching. But it's there's this race, and another the other thing I have felt was that let these people work, because here's what I see. Let's just take Neil and Karen and their noble work, and this, I'm not going to say this. Their noble statements of the work they're doing. Okay, well, that's really clean and free of any kind of hidden stuff. And they're doing their work. Okay, so let's say they're on a field and they're each looking for gold. Let's just use looking for gold as a metaphor. And as they're working, and they're doing their due diligence, I see a big golden smiling dragon coming over the horizon. And they're busy. It's almost, if you could see it, I'm seeing it coming from behind, and their backs to me, but the dragon is facing me. And they're busy. They're busy people, and this wave is coming, and it's smiling. It's very benevolent, and it's very sweet, and it's moving forward. And at a point, it will. Right now, it's on the horizon. At one point, it moves into actuality. Some of these new areas for this flow to come into, which I believe are the things that Dave Schmidt is setting up with with the people in the LLCs, which I think is brilliant personally. A lot of people are again, they're seeing things wrong with this. It's almost like, excuse me, we're coming by with lots of water. If you dig a few wells, we can leave some. And that's how I see that also. And Dave Schmidt's people, they've been very kind of, with the dinar and stuff in the mind, they kind of have the right minds. Like somebody says, give me a basic skeleton business plan so I can do this. For a lot of people, it's like, what the heck is this? And we scribble something out that's almost unintelligible. Because we want to do this, we want to do this, we want to do this, and my friend and my thumb will be here. Where these people know how to at least put things in. So it's a good crew to get started, because this is the crew that can actually build the wells that can have the water that other people can have some. That's how I see it. So the whole thing for Neil and Karen becomes, I feel, in a very short time, whether their work is any longer relevant. Because if this is a tide that's moving, and if the movement of that tide, which is the making life better for humanity, the liberation of humanity, moves forward at the pace that I see it as, and if Karen and Neil remain stymied with whatever blockages they're encountering in their endeavors, I see a point actually where that moves, and their work now becomes, again, irrelevant, where it's already happened. You can, come join us, and that's the other, please, let's keep these people as friends. Even if somebody go, well, we finally found out, whatever. We have a jubilee coming, okay? You remember, at least that's part of this, okay? So everybody's kind of thinking monetary jubilee, which is one way of looking at it, a reset, cleaning of the slate. But what about a social jubilee? How about a jubilee where all this grudges and all this stuff that is really the low level? I'm not talking about, there's some egregious things and all, this is not about dumping, but I'm talking about the low level flinging, almost the family level stuff of what's happening right now here with Neil Keenan and the ambassador. You know what I mean? The poo flinging. And how, and a jubilee where we finally just kind of say, enough, we got a whole new world to build. Anything from that world, including old reputations, are worthless. With the real jubilee, let everybody bring a fresh face, and every step forward becomes their new history. Just as with the jubilee, everybody's out of debt. Will everybody stay out of debt? You know, and even if it's just a flow where you can't get into debt, but certain flows, if you outdo it, then, you know, it's like you got to wait for the next delivery or something. Some people will thrive and do well in that, and other people will find ways to not use their flow wisely and have periods of drought, when other people are not only experiencing no drought, but are experiencing their own little reservoirs building up, all through how things are managed. And but which is, that kind of behavior has been part of what the problem is. But see, with Jubilee, everything's flat. Everybody starts new. Everybody's able to at the same starting line, and then from that starting line, your performance is your performance, because you've been clean. There's no shine. There's no fakery. Whatever you can, however you perform, that's it. Now, of course, what's good is there's not just, you know, part of performance is how you interact with others. So I mean, it's just really rich, but it better be about unity. And and the whole idea of a clean slate, an absolute clean slate. I mean, and again, emotional investment. Back, you know, clean slate. I think I finished that. So emotional investment. One of the things that bugs me about people going after Ron, not only in this latest piece, some other pieces, some from his own commenters, is about how he got fooled with Swiss Indo and TTP. First of all, what a joke, I feel, to come after Ron for that. We all know Ron's heart, and if you don't, you haven't watched him. Ron did everything for the right reasons. And so because he got Charlie Brown, where basically here's the football, and Charlie, he's going there with, he's there because he's there, he's committed. This is Ron. He's there with his heart, and he's ready to kick that ball out of the stadium for humanity. And Lucy pulls the ball away. Okay, and of course, so we could see Swiss Indo and TTP as 2 times Lucy pulled the ball away. And Ron, as if like Ron's a fool. Well, if Ron's any kind of fool, he's the fool, like I am. And this is the one that cannot give up the quest when they can still see it, and a few blockages are in their way. And of course, the biggest cosmic joke is if somebody holds the football, and they're really going to hold it this time. And because you are concerned that you might look a fool, you don't do it. And this is where our own emotions can make us have bad judgments, and also I call beaten dog syndrome. But this is what Ron is doing is not foolish. It's the work of the fool with a capital F, the sacred fool, who keeps on going forward because his heart. This is, you know, to dream the impossible dream. And listen to those words, and you will get an essence of what Ron has been doing. So, a fool. I can't. When people call Ron a fool, even when his friends, I am horrified by that. And not only because do I think that none of us are being fooled at this time, but it's the only way you can even call somebody out on their stuff. I mean, ultimately, Ron went in there and it blew up. And I mean, it's just, I just love Ron for what he's doing, and this whole foolish thing is all tied into ego. It's all about ego. A person who has a managed ego could give a crap about looking like a fool for doing the right thing, because being wrong only meant that you went forward enough to find out it was wrong. So again, more homage to Ron, and trying to just close this up. Remember, our investments are emotional. Check that stuff out. When you're starting to take sides, find out where your emotional investment is, because if this was really about mental processing, as far as I'm concerned, Neil Keenan's piece would not have touched many people. Because it wasn't, for me, it wasn't written. Even the language, the way it was used and how characters were, almost caricatures were created. I mean, that is, that's style of writing. And it gets people. It hooks people in emotionally. And people who are looking for information and not hooked in emotionally and looking for a quick little rah-rah, it almost is like the words that don't really, that are coloring the character. They're like, please, I'm looking for information. What's with all this color? The color becomes, it's like you're looking at a piece of clean paper and somebody wants to put some color on it, and it's like, I can still see it, but, it was a lot easier before. So I guess I'm going to close on that. The responsibility of unity, addressing the buzz that has popped up here, and just back to unity. This is, again, the little thing that happened. Gwen made a remark quite emotionally and honestly from the way she wanted to phrase it, and that flew over there. And that's the problem, is that was kind of like the side. When that went, that created a side, the ambassador side and Neil Keenan's, and we all can we all recognize what happened here and just everybody just chill. I mean, nobody has to like the ambassador and his message, but let's let it play out. Let's not be at each other's throats over this disagreement. It's going to play out. Pick a side and then let it come out, and it'll all work out. And I'm not afraid of being a fool, not one bit. Okay. So before all else, I see the God within you.